Hi there, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Corey of the Lavender Nest. I am a furniture painter here in Southern Ontario, and I love just refinishing and bringing new life into furniture, finding things that have been left out on the curb to be thrown to the dump and giving them new life. So please like this video, subscribe, comment, all that jazz, and be sure to check me out on Instagram, The Lavender Nest. I hope you enjoy the video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I refinished this wooden dresser. Now before I started filming for this video, I already cleaned it with a really good degreaser and gave it a scuff sanding with a 220 grit sandpaper. So now it's on to priming. I'm using my favorite primer, the Zinsser Shellac based primer. And every time you use this, you want to make sure to give it a really good stir to mix in all the product that's kind of sunken down into the bottom. Next, I'm going to line my paint tray with aluminum foil just because this product is really hard to clean up, so it's easier just to throw out the aluminum foil once I'm done. I really don't like pouring this product either just because of how messy it is, so I like to just use an old measuring cup to pour it in. Now it is time to apply it using my microfiber roller, and I just want to make sure here that I've got it really nice and saturated with lots of the product. When you're rolling this product on, you just want to make sure to get a nice thin coat across the entire surface of the dresser. Alright, let's speed that up for you guys. Same thing over here, I'm painting the other side now, making sure to get all the way to the bottom in that nice thin coat. Now onto the front. I really thought about leaving these drawers the way they were, but they were just a little too damaged to be able to leave bare wood, so I had to paint them. Now going into this detail, I like to turn the roller sideways and sort of use the tip of it to really get into all those little small details. Now, like I said, this product can be really hard to clean up, so I like to save my rollers for as long as I can by wrapping them up just in plastic wrap. And I'm going to do the same with that aluminum foil and paint tray. I want to save it for my next project, and the best spot to save it is in the fridge. There's my little stash of all the paint tools. Now it's time to lightly sand down the primer just to knock down any texture that may have formed. And I'm just going to do this by hand. I've folded my sandpaper into thirds so it's easier to hold. And I'm just lightly going over it with a 150 grit sandpaper just to smooth out any imperfections. Okay, the best part. Now I'm going to be using this House&Canvas Chalk Paint in the color Bluegrass. This was my first time using the House&Canvas chalk style furniture paint, and I just ordered online, which was great. They're out of Ontario, so the shipping was really quick. It got to me in about 2 days, so I am all about that convenience. Now, this paint is very thick, so you want to make sure that you just slowly stir it up really well, mix all the product together before you start painting. And seriously, look at that color. It is beautiful. I'm going to be using my spray gun for this project, so I'm just pouring the paint into the container and I'm going to water it down slightly. I don't have an exact measurement for how I do this. My suggestion is just little by little, stir up the water really well and take a look at it and make sure that it is a consistency where it just is dripping nicely off your brush. It doesn't look too thick anymore, and then it's ready. Of course, now this is the most fun part of any project, is getting that new color on and getting your first look at how your project's going to turn out. And whenever you're using a spray gun, be sure to have the proper protective equipment. I realized that I wasn't wearing my respirator, so I quickly ran inside and grabbed it for the rest of the project. was very impressed with how this product sprayed. You can see it went on so nice and smooth. It was a very even first coat, and there's a few little spots there that are a little white still showing the primer through, so I will do a second coat, but for the first coat, this coverage was amazing. So now I'm moving on to the top of my piece, and I am going to be keeping the top as a bare wood. So I completely sanded down the top. And again, I had not filmed the start of this project, so I will just tell you that I went in with an 80 grit sandpaper, then I went over it with a 150 grit sandpaper, and then a 220 grit sandpaper. And that removed all the imperfections on the top and all of the previous stain. And here you can see I'm just putting painter's tape down around the edges so that I can paint that one ridge with the House&Canvas color paint. And to paint that, I'm going to be using my House&Canvas chalk brush, and I'm just misting it here with a little bit of water. Then I dipped it into the can, and I'm using the lid of the can just to mix it around on my brush a bit. And every so often I just sprayed my brush with a bit of water just to help the product smoothly go on so it wasn't too thick of an application. So the first coat has fully dried, and I'm just putting on a little bit of painter's tape with plastic. This is a 3M product, and I will link it down in the description box. This is one of my favorite products. It makes it so much easier when you're spray painting anything. You don't have to go find plastic or newspaper to cover the tops or sides or whatever it may be. So now I'm just going in with a second coat, and you can see here it doesn't actually look like anything is spraying. So cue me looking at the spray gun, trying to figure out what's happening, and there was a small blockage, easily fixed, and there we go. Now you can see that it is actually spraying. So sometimes that happens. Spray guns are great, but they do take some troubleshooting on occasion. We'll speed this up a little bit, putting on that second coat and just covering any little spot that didn't get covered the first time around, and 2 coats was plenty for this one. Now it is time to seal the project. So some paints you don't need to put on a top coat, but with a chalk paint you definitely need to put something on. So I am using this Polycrylic by MinWax in the color Clear Satin. And you can see there's still some of the chalk paint in my container, and I am just going to keep that there and pour the polycrylic right in very slowly to be sure that I don't create any bubbles. Once I've got enough of the polycrylic and I'm stirring it up. And the reason I'm keeping some of the paint in is because sometimes this product can sort of look a little hazy on darker colors. So this is just going to help make it look a little more natural, and I won't get a strange colored haze. And again, this product can be put through a spray gun because it is water-based, so it's very easy to clean up. Okay, so I had put on 2 coats around the edges of the top of the dresser, and I have not sealed that yet, so I'm just peeling back the tape. I'm going to stain the top and seal the whole thing all together. Now, painter's tape is usually good, but you can see I had a little bleed through here, but the great thing about chalk paint is all you have to do is take a little bit of sandpaper and it will scuff right off. Okay, this is great. I'm showing you the French side of what I'm using. So that is MinWax stain in the color English Chestnut. And with a stain, you also want to make sure that you stir up the product really well. You can see a theme here. You always want to stir your products so that anything that's settled on the bottom gets mixed in. Now I'm just using an old brush to apply the stain. You can also use a rag, but I just found the brush to be a little bit more precise for these edges so that I didn't get too much on that edge where I had painted. Now I'm just applying a generous amount of stain on the top of the dresser, and you want to work relatively quickly. Yes, I have sped up the video here, I'm not working that fast, but you just want to make sure that the stain applies evenly, and when it's time to wipe it, it hasn't been sitting on the top of the dresser for too long on one side and not long enough on the other side. And there, as I see any little spots that the stain is kind of sneaking onto the paint, I'm just wiping it as I go. And the stain, it won't want to absorb into that paint anyways, so it's relatively easy to clean up if you do get any stain on the painted surface. So now I let the stain sit for about 5 minutes, and I'm just starting to wipe off the edges first, and I'm just using a lint-free rag, something that I can throw out when I'm done, and I'm wiping up all the excess stain. This seriously made all the difference on this project. As much as it takes time to sand off the stain, this needed a fresh new top, and I was so happy with how this stain turned out. Okay, time to add some polycrylic to the top now, and I'm just going to be using my foam brush. These ones I'm pretty sure I just got from Dollarama. They do sell them at Home Depot, and they are a bit better quality, but if I know I'm going to be throwing them away and I can save a few bucks, the dollar store is a great place to find these. When you're brushing any sort of polycrylic product, you just want to make sure that you're putting on a thin coat and you're not brushing it over and over and over. You kind of just want to get it where it needs to go in the same direction as the wood grain, and let it do its thing. Just let it sit and dry fully. Now I'm taking a 320 grit sandpaper, and I'm doing that same sort of tri-fold, and I'm giving this a light sanding just to knock down any texture or imperfections that may have happened when I was painting the top. Once I'm finished sanding it, I'm going to go back and just wipe off any of the dust with a tack cloth or a damp rag. And then I'm going to go in and add another coat of polycrylic onto the top of this dresser, just because I know this is going to be the most used area. Once you get the last coat of polycrylic on, you don't want to sand it. I'm just going to leave it to dry. Alright, hardware time. I'm going to be keeping the original wooden knob hardware. I just want to stain them so that they look a little bit more like the top of the dresser. And this is just a little trick, taking some scrap cardboard, poking holes in it. I just used my screwdriver, and then I'm going to attach the hardware into it so it stands up, and it makes it so much easier to paint or stain or do whatever it is that you want to do to them. This is also really great if you're spray painting hardware. So I gave the hardware just a light sanding, and now I'm going in with a rag and applying the stain onto each piece of hardware on the tops and all the way around the sides. Now I noticed the stain was sort of pooling into the middle, and so I gave it a few extra minutes to sort of soak in to see if that would go away. And sure enough, after about 15 minutes, it had soaked in much more, and it just needed a quick wipe with the rag to get off any excess. Now it is time to put it all back together and reattach the hardware. Then it will be time to get this piece all staged and ready for photos. I love to keep my staging nice and simple, so I'm using 2 books, and these are just books that I like the colors of the covers, so I like to use them in almost all of my photos. And of course, a candle just sets the mood. This is a Slate candle, which is a company local to me. It is based out of St. Thomas. This dresser gave me a little bit of a farmhouse vibe, so I decided to put in this large clock and a Jabex bottle with some fake rose petals in it. This candle is fresh baked bread, and you guys, that is exactly what it smells like. It is amazing. So this is the final product. I was so happy with how it turned out. It is totally a fresh new look. The top of the dresser looks so much better than it did before. It looks like brand new wood on top. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I had so much fun refinishing this one. This was my first time using that House&Canvas paint, and honestly, it was so beautiful. It levels so nicely when you spray it, and it's really nice to paint with a brush or a roller as well. I would definitely recommend it. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Please like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Find me on Instagram for more, and I hope to see you again soon.